Alright, so in the lesson today, what we're going to be talking about are adjustment layers. Adjustment layers work a lot like they did in Photoshop. They are layers you can put on top of your video. They're blank layers that you can add effects or different things to and blend them down into your video. So it's a good way to work in a non-destructive manner, not putting effects directly on your clips, instead putting them above on a specific layer for that effect. That way you can kind of move and change and alter that effect as you want to. So in today's lesson, I've sent you a video. It looks like this. I want you to put it in the projects panel, and I want you to, move me up here. I want you to create a sequence like we've done before. Now, in this sequence, what we look at is Dan kind of coming down, blinking, tear falling down. I want to add some different effects to him. And at the heart of effects really are you tinkering with it. You have to tinker with your effects in order to figure out what effects do what. I can show you all day, but kind of playing around with it's where the real fun's going to lie. So I need you to find your effects panel. Make sure you see that, and I would go ahead and move that panel right next to your project panel. That way you can kind of move back and forth quickly between the two. Now, in your project panel, we're going to need to create an adjustment layer first. So down here next to the trash can, you'll see this new item icon. And I want you to scroll up to find adjustment layer. Now, it's going to come up, it's going to say what size do you want your adjustment layer to be. It should all be stock to whatever your sequence is. And just hit OK. Now, one problem is when you have multiple adjustment layers in a project, they're all going to be named adjustment layer unless you go in and actually rename this adjustment layer. So I'm going to call this effects. I want you to do the same. So right click or control click on that clip, change it to the word effects. Now I'm going to take that adjustment layer and I'm going to place it on top of my video. And I'm going to go ahead and stretch it the entire length of the video. Now, this is just a blank layer at the moment. There is nothing in it. If I click on it and I go to my effects control and change the position or I change the scale, you'll see nothing really changes because there's nothing there to change at the moment. Okay, but you can start to pile on effects and then you can change the motion and effect to it a little later. So let's look at how to do that. First, make sure you have your effect controls open as well as your effects in the panel here, in your project panel. Now, as far as effects go, there are a whole host of them. So I'm only going to go through a couple of here. And I want you to kind of play around with these and tinker with these. Try some different ones along the way so that you know what you're doing with them. Don't feel like you have to be limited to just the ones I'm going to show here. Okay. Notice in the project panel right here, there is a little search bar. Because there are so many things here, it gives you an option to search for the name of it, which makes life a little bit easier if you know what you're looking for. So I'm going to type in the word wave here. And I'll see a couple of things that come up that have that word wave. Towards the bottom, underneath video effects, distort, I will have wave warp. I will place that on top of the effects clip. I can drag it here, or I could have dragged it right here to the effect controls. Now when you place this, you're going to notice this little warped effect show up on top of Dan, and you're also going to notice that in your timeline, everything turns red. Anytime you're adding effects, you're going to have to render them out to make them look proper. So now you can see this effect that it's having here. So let's play with this a little bit. Any effect that you place has a whole bunch, generally a whole bunch of options for that effect. And you can kind of play around and see what kind of effects you can create here. So try going through the square option or the triangle or the uncircle, whatever you want to play with. The wave height is how tall these waves will get. So you can see I can literally separate the video if I want to. The wave width, how wide these bars are. And the direction, which direction these go in. So there's a lot of options that you get just from this option. And you can see we get all kinds of cool effects if we want to kind of play around with this. Now the cool thing about this to me is that underneath I've got that Dan fighting clip, and I can move him out of the way and I can put another clip underneath this. So I can add 10 different clips to have that same effect. So it allows me to make a bunch of effects onto this one adjustment layer, and I can apply it to multiple clips along the way. So I can copy this if I want to. I can, drag on it and make duplicates of it if I want to. And that effect, regardless of what video I have underneath it, will be there. So that's kind of neat. And it saves a lot of time, especially if you're doing the same effect throughout a bunch of different times in a video, right? Having that one single adjustment layer allows you to create an effect and move it quickly without it having to, copy and paste all of the attributes out of every one of your clips and paste them over. Creates a headache. All right, so I'm going to leave that wave warp here, and I'm going to shorten it, okay? So I want it right here. I'm going to go back to my projects. I'm going to right click and rename this to the wave warp. So that effect is the wave warp. That's what it's going to allow me to do. If I go to my list view, I can see that it's a pink icon. You can see the little icon that goes with adjustment layers, and you'll be able to create multiples of these. Now, if I hit play here and I look, I'll see that that effect stops right where that adjustment stops. So I can add another transition to this adjustment layer. This time, go to Video Transitions, go to Dissolve, and go to Dip to White or Black, whichever floats your boat here. I'm going to do white because it's a little easier to see. And I can add this effect to that adjustment layer. I'll zoom in so I can kind of see where I'm at here. Let me back up. And I'm going to shorten that dip to white to be just at the end. You just kind of click at the beginning of this and drag it over. And you'll notice now, when it gets to the end of the clip, it blinks out white and then shows him. Right? So adding these little effects helps you kind of blend and merge your videos together to create a more interesting look. Let's look at another one here. So go again to your project panel, hit New Item, go to Adjustment Layer, and let's create a new one. This one I want you to rename it, and we'll call it Three-Way Color. So just like that, Three-Way Color. Just drag that on top of your clip, and I'll zoom out just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to have about 4 of these, so you want each one to cover about 1/4, maybe a little longer or a little less than that of these clips. Alright, so right here I'm going to add my three-way color. Let's go back to effects. And I'm going to type in the word 3. Don't type in the number 3, the actual word 3. And you'll see three-way color comes up under video effects. And I'm going to apply that here. Now, three-way color is pretty cool because it allows you to alter the color of your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights. So that means these dark areas to the right side of his face are his shadows. Over here on the left are his shadows. I can alter and adjust each one of those colors along the way. So let's say I want these shadows out here to kind of have a red pop to them. I can bring those up so it looks really red. Let's say I want to go the opposite direction. I want to have a cool tone, a blue tone. That looks cool to me, so that's where I'm going to leave it. I want you to play with your midtones. Your midtones are going to kind of be his skin tone. Does he want to be brighter? Do you want to kind of create a pink look to go with that? Maybe green, he's hulking out, right? I want you to kind of play with that and see what that looks like on the midtones. And then the highlights, these are these high intensity spots on his cheek. What color do you kind of want to blend those to? So you can make them crazy, you can make them short, whatever kind of floats your boat here. I'm kind of going a lot to the blues for some reason. But again, this allows me to add a color mode. Let's say my entire film, like The Matrix was very green and blue. The whole film was green and blue. Adding that color change onto an adjustment layer allows me to stretch this all the way across my entire film if that's what I want to do with it. So I can take that one effect and put it on every single clip down the way. So I've got this awesome color, didn't have to do a whole lot to it, right? I made it once, dragged it all the way across. It's something that will impress when you're showing it to clients, but it's something that doesn't take a lot of time to do. And it's something that a lot of students don't do for some reason because it's so simple just to create one adjustment layer and add color all the way down the line, right? So I want you to start thinking that way. I want you to start applying your own color scheme to these. Alright, so let's look at another option. Let's go back to your project panel, create a new adjustment layer, And this one we're going to call Tinker because we're going to throw a couple of things on it. So Tinker. And I'm going to put that down here past the three-way color. Alright, on this Tinker, what I want to do, and again, make sure you've got the right layer selected, is I want to put a few different effects on it. Okay, so this is going to look kind of crazy. Just take it for what it is. Underneath video effects, you can kind of scroll and pick your own if you would like, or you can kind of follow along with me. I'm going to look for find edges under stylize. And when I do that, I notice I get this kind of crazy look, this hand-drawn-ish look. I can change to blend to the original so I can see a little bit more of that image. I can invert it so I get these crazy looking dark spots. Something cool about this one in general is that I can blend this down to the image and create kind of cool pops to these colors. So I'm going to leave this pretty significant. I'm going to blend with original 0%, say 10%, just so I can get a little bit of it. And I want to be able to see him. So when I play it, you get this crazy look, right? Now let's go back, and instead of find, I'm going to type in the word echo. Oop, see if I can spell echo. I'm going to go to time echo. Now echo does just what it sounds like. It repeats itself, right? I can choose how quickly it echoes. I can show it in kind of a slow-mo. I can have a number of echoes. I can have them kind of out of frame. I'll put 2 up here just so you can kind of see it. And I can choose a blending mode that kind of goes with this. So I'm going to composite in black for this one. In front maybe. Let's see how it looks. So now when I hit play, I get this little bit of an echo effect. I'm not seeing it so much there. Ooh, my computer's saying that's too much for me. So there's times when it does that, right? And what you need to do generally, mark an in, an out point, and go up to, where is it, sequence, render effects, and out. Now, anytime you're, it's gonna take time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just what it does. All right, maybe that time is just a little too far. So let's go to 0.5. Let's go to 1 echo because maybe it's just all too much. There we go. And we're seeing a little bit of that echo here now. So play around with it a little bit. Tinker with it. See what you like, right? There's a lot of different things you can do with this. Play with it. That's all you can do. Alright, let's say I want to add any more effects onto it. I can do that, and I'd like you to add a couple more, kind of experiment with them. Remember, you have the option to add keyframes. Something I've always liked doing is just applying a simple Gaussian blur, starting with it a little blurry here, and kind of coming back to sharp focus pretty quick. So I'll create a keyframe just a little ways down and then fix it. So that way when it comes in, it's blurry, and then it's not really fast. In fact, I'll pull that down a little bit. It's blur. Into focus. You got to play with them. That's really the key to everything here, is tinkering around with it. Alright, so now let's go back to our project panel and let's add our last adjustment layer. Alright, we'll rename this For Color. F-O-R color, or just the number. Now this is one of my favorite effects because of what it can kind of create. It looks awesome, and it's something that's always impressed people when you kind of throw it on properly and have a good look to it. It's one of those things that's just always going to impress in general. So let's go to effects, and let's go to For Color. Yeah. So you can actually type the number 4. It is specific to number or spelling, so you have to type the right thing. For Color Gradient. Now, at first when you throw this on, you're like, what the heck is this? And then you look over here and you're like, this is a lot. I get you. It is. But let's tinker with it. I want you to change your colors here to whatever you kind of want them to be. All right. I don't like this green. We'll throw in that reddish color into that corner. Leave that purple. So I want you to change your colors to 4 colors you like, whatever you like. Okay. I want you to notice these words point. If I change the point, I can change where that color is located, right? You see it moving. So I don't have to leave it in the corners like this. I can have 4 colors in different locations, and they'll blend with each other properly. So if I want more red with just a touch of blue down there, That's kind of what I want for this image. Now, you'll notice blend, jitter, and opacity. Okay, blend means how much is it going to blend underneath the image below. I like to leave this right as where it is, 100. Jitter is how much it's going to change. Change the word jitter to change in your head. Okay, and opacity is how much can you see through it. Right. Now, the problem is we don't have anything blended. So I'm going to click on blend, and I'm going to choose a blending mode. And once I get that blending mode down on this guy, I all of a sudden see these crazy colors coming through, right? And it gives this awesome look to this. This video was originally shot looking a specific way, and by adding these colors, it looks so much better and so much different. Once you blended it, try doing some different colors. See what works, see what doesn't, right? Create your own gradient to this. You can do this on any clip, any way along the way. And having these effects right here allows me to grab that 4 color and throw it on top of Tinker. It allows me to grab that 4 color and throw it on top of the 3 color. And you can do different things with it along the way, right? So, all about adjustment layers, they really come down to, one, not being destructive in editing. You're not applying these effects directly to your clip. You're applying it above your clip. 2, it allows you to save an effect and to move that effect onto other clips down the way. 3, it allows you to stretch the entire length of your clip and have as much color as you want onto every clip that you want. So yes, you can, change the colors of specific clips along the way, but you can have a single set color across the entirety of your document. So one color mode across everything, but yeah, I want this one to be black and white. I'll apply that directly to that clip. Yeah, I want this one to be brighter red, brighter green. I'll apply that directly to that clip. But your overall color is set on that adjustment layer. That's what adjustment layers are for. That's what they do. You can do a lot with them, and I want you to start using them in all of your projects. It's easier to have those effects on the adjustment layers than to have them on the clip specifically. Okay, it's a lot easier just to set your clips up, arrange them in order how you want, and then come back later and add effects. I'll point out that at the top of Premiere, if you look right here, it says Learning, Assembly, Editing, Color, Effects. It's in that order for a reason. That's kind of how you need to approach every video you make. You need to assemble it first. You need to come in and edit it second, setting it in a line of what it needs to be, cutting things shorter, expanding things out. You need to then add color on top of that entire video, right? And then you need to add your effects. So doing all that in the editing phase is not a good way of kind of operating here, because you're adding all these cool things, but you don't even know if that's where it's going to be in the long run, right? So when you're editing your clips, start by just putting what needs to be where next to each other. Create a story, a line for your film. Then come in and add the craziness using your adjustment layers, all right? Now, you should have created something that looks very similar to this right here. Today, I'm going to ask you to place your playhead right here on the Tinker so I can see that you've got multiple things going on. Ooh, let me get myself out of the way. I want you to place your playhead on the Tinker option so I can see what kind of crazy effects you've added. I want to see your effect controls open, showing me different effects. If you've got this, you can take a screenshot. Now notice again, I need to see all 4 of these adjustment layers in place for you to get credit for that screenshot. But I want your playhead on Tinker, and I want to be able to see the effect controls. Take your screenshot, that Shift Command 3 on a Mac. On PCs it's going to be a little different, and turn that into today's lesson. Thank you so much. Start using your adjustment layers in your videos.